Hello, and welcome to this mini tutorial for using student response systems to teach, not just to test. If you're not familiar with the student response systems, they're simple devices or applications that permit instructors to rapidly assess student comprehension, a sort of check on learning. They come in many shapes and sizes. And of course, here's my disclaimer. Research by Dr. Edgar Dale revealed our cone of experience or learning is limited by how the information is delivered. His now famous study demonstrated. After about 2 weeks, we only retain a portion of the information we read, but we recall significantly more information when we actively participate in the discussion. So clearly, participation is the key to active learning, but participation alone isn't enough. Students require authentic and timely instructor feedback in order to cement the learning. So with regard to feedback, let's get a little Covey, who famously suggested we begin with the end in mind. For the conscientious educator, that means we need to know the intent of our content, be consistent with our learning objectives, and authentic with our feedback. Let me share two dynamics of feedback. First, feedback has a shelf life. The sooner feedback is provided, the more impactful it will be for the student. Second, many student response systems only assess what the student already knows, can choose, recall, or remember. That said, there are 3 general categories for feedback that every instructor should be aware of: positive, negative, and neutral. Research has shown positive feedback to be more impactful to students. As such, it's typically constructive, corrective, or praise. Let's unpack them a little. The basis for constructive feedback is to be kind, be specific, and to be helpful. To avoid the negativity often associated with corrective feedback, rather than simply pointing out what the student did wrong, focus instead on what they could improve. We must be consistent when providing praise feedback. Too often we tend to underpraise our high performers and overpraise our lower performers. Consistency is essential. So how do we use student response systems to leverage one of the most dynamic parts of learning, student participation? And how do we integrate student response systems with the most impactful part of teaching, feedback? First, we reduce teaching barriers created by technology. By taking the emphasis away from the technology and putting it back on the learning, our students are better able to focus their energies on consistent participation in addition to our authentic feedback. Consider the simple workflow following your brief lecture to help you decide whether you need to revisit the concept, conduct peer group discussions, or simply give an added explanation before moving on. Regardless the student response system used, following this workflow will lead to greater engagement and enhanced student learning because you're now focusing more on results rather than the process. So remember, the key to better student learning outcomes isn't in your questions but rather in their responses. For more professional development teaching resources, scan the QR code to check out some of my other videos. Feel free to email me if you have any questions, and thanks for watching.
Created using Powtoon.